So, all right. I've known Amy a long time. I've seen her head into the education sector straight out of uni. So working hard, but slowly losing a little bit of heart in the job. And a few years ago, she took leave and tried out some other jobs, try to learn a little bit more about the world outside the education space. She went and studied philosophy and found herself back in the education industry in the special needs sector and found a new love for it.
Yeah.
I've heard from multiple sources that she's phenomenal in that space, and I even got to witness it last year when I went and visited her in the classroom.
I forgot about
which was really fun. So yeah, welcome Amy. Thanks for coming and having a chat today.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, really good. Yeah, so I wanted to get you on today and just like have a little chat about that journey, really. Like,
Okay.
I really want to just understand your attitudes and your motivations and the challenges and the realizations and those kind of things as you went through and as you kind of, you fell out of love.
Yeah.
And then how'd you come back? And
Okay.
what did you learn from being outside the industry, and what did you kind of like learn as you came back in? So that was sort of the...
Okay. Yeah, we can follow this.
Yeah. Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So, I don't know, give me a quick little overview of your first few years of teaching.
Okay.
Like how did that feel? How did that match up to expectations, etc.?
Teaching was probably not an expectation space for me. I didn't really... It's one of those jobs where you've been educated for 12 years, so you know exactly what it's like in your head.
Yep.
And I think everyone else claims to have that feeling, because when you say, oh, I'm a teacher, unless the person has a child that needs help, the conversation ends because they understand completely what you do. Whereas if I was to say, oh, I'm an NGO in Papua New Guinea,
Like,
there's unknown to that. So
yeah,
I guess from what I expected it to be, I didn't have that expectation because I just assumed that I knew. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But as a job, I went out to Rockhampton and I tried to get work there.
Yep.
And I remember being shocked that I didn't walk into a job there because it's Rockhampton. Shouldn't that be easy?
Yeah, aren't they screaming for teachers?
Another expectation that was wrong.
Like,
Yeah. So I think I went to about 20 schools.
Wow.
And I applied for the whole month. Every day I went and did one school and really tried to, And then if that school didn't work, and then the next day I would write a specific cover letter and go to the next school, and I'd look at their website and I'd write blah, 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 blah.
I didn't realise it was that challenging for you to get into a place.
So hard.
Wow.
I went out as far as Yeppoon. Which is like an hour to the coastline. And then I got called up by the region and said, oh, there's this amazing job down in Billawheeler, and I'm born in Toowoomba, so I know where Billawheeler is, and the drive from Rockhampton to Billawheeler is not sustainable. Like, it would take hours. Like, I would have to move there.
Sure.
But I think he just saw that I was from Brisbane, so
like,
how would she know?
Yeah.
So turn that one down.
Yep. Smart.
Yeah, and then just one of those fairy tale things where you're just like, this is the last school, I give up.
Oh, wow.
And so I went to a school called Gracemere State School, and the bloke there, I just said I'd happily do a day for free. And he's like, oh, okay, we'll come in next week. And then I met the guy that I was going to replace.
Okay.
And he was the PE teacher becoming a year 2 teacher.
Yep.
And I watched him do 2 lessons, and then I taught the rest of the day, and then he gave me the job.
No way.
So that's how I got my job.
That's how you got in. Sweet. And so you stayed there for
a year.
Just a year?
Yeah.
Yep. And that kind of like got you a little bit settled and
Oh, yes.
understanding.
So this leads to expectations. I knew there was a question in there.
Yeah.
I made a really tight friendship with this bloke who gave me the job, Matthew. And Matthew, I recall, and several times would walk into his classroom because we shared the space. So I had a tiny desk in his classroom and he would teach, and on my non-contact hours, I would just sit and watch him teach and do planning or whatever, or, you know.
That's nice to be able to like see that so consistently.
Yeah, and he's an amazing teacher, so that was really nice.
Yep.
And yeah, but quite often in the morning I'd be crying and he'd be like, "You're okay, Amy. You can do it." Like, so
wow.
yeah.
So like you started up and you'd have those intense feelings and you'd be like, were you sort of doubting things at that stage, or were you kind of like, you know, I can do this, I can make it, or because like you know, my first few jobs I never cried in a job, and I haven't started teaching yet, but I imagine maybe I will, but I don't know.
Actually, you know me quite well. I don't cry.
Yeah, no, you're solid, you're strong.
It would be very hard to make me cry. So, well, in front of so many people go, "Oh my God, Amy has a tear duct," but
yeah.
In that space, I definitely did.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I was so upset is that I spent 4 years studying so hard to do something that was so not what I was prepared for.
Wow.
In the sense of, well, I did a double degree, so I dipped my toe in the education side and did the science side as well. But also, I think, although I didn't have expectations on teaching, I had expectations on myself and what I believe is a high achiever. And I think that being a teacher in my mind's eye back then wasn't a successful route for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't think that for you, like in your skills or your strengths, would be successful?
No, it's just such an ego thing. Like, I should be a writer, or I should be an architect, or I should be something with a... something that I perceived, past tense, to be important.
Yeah. Have a bit more prestige or bit more status or something like that, or just...
But also innately knowing that I'm not that driven to do that kind of work. So knowing that's contra to my work ethic and my life ethic and how I roll, it's just confronting.
Ouch. So you sort of like had a little like internal kind of conundrum there where you had your own expectations of what you wanted for your life, and then...
But I'm too lazy to go do it.
To go do it.
That's exactly
and
where I
then the
sat.
one that you're in wasn't fulfilling those things either.
And I mean, and I guess coupled with moving to Rockhampton with a few other background things going on.
Yep.
And
how old were you then?
I don't know.
Like 23 or something? 22?
Do you know, someone asked me today, when did I start teaching, and I couldn't answer them. Yeah, go with that.
So, because what, like school 17, 18, 4-ish years at uni.
But then I had 2 at TAFE prior, or 3.
Okay, so maybe like 23, 24.
Yeah, I was a bit older.
Yeah,
I was the older kid in the class at uni.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What does that make me? Oh God.
A grandfather.
Father time. My beard needs to be longer. Oh God. No, I'm totally comfortable with my age.
Shall we explore that?
It's about you today, Amy.
Let's go. So cool. That was me sitting.
Yep. And that's
with that space.
And so that you're then teaching, and that's kind of in the background. How did that stay like that for like the next few years as you work, or did it leach in stronger, or how did that progress?
I just didn't want to teach for probably the 7 years that I did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you'd go into work and you kind of kept doing it. So you like your attitude. Do you think is that attitude?
Is it like middle class stoicism with a pinch of like laziness? Like I just could never.
Yeah.
Well, too bad, so sad. At least you've got a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of element. And everything else in the peripheral's really good. So if my job's not 100%, then, just deal with it.
Yeah,
That's probably my mantra with that.
Yep.
And also to say, though, loved working with the kids and I worked with really nice people. It's just that like little seed
that was kind of...
Yeah, it was that. It wasn't the peripheral people and the kids. It was I should have tried harder for something else.
Yeah.
Which I've never defined in my life, and I still haven't.
Just this like vague feeling term of undefinable, like wanting something else, something different than what is.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, okay. That's challenging to hold on to.
And it's almost so hypocritical because I think teachers are the ones saying, you can be anything you want to be.
Yep.
And I would even say that to so many students of mine now. But I have no idea what I want to be.
Yeah.
But I will, it's so inspiring to see kids who are 15 know what they want to do. I'm like, wow,
crazy,
you've got life so sorted.
It's pretty lucky.
Yeah.
It's a hard road to go to figure out those things.
Yeah.
It is. It's it takes real, you got to do some reflecting and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's just, it just felt like in my own head, I shouldn't be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you did your 7 years then, and then was there sort of something towards the end of that time that flicked the switch of okay, I'm going to change my situation now? What drove that change? I'm sure it was a few things, but were there a couple of main ones or?
I guess I was commuting from Byron to Brisbane. So, and then I'd stay up in Brisbane and then go back to Byron. And I'm sure that just has an expiry date, that travel.
That's big. That's 2-hour drive?
Yeah. And I think I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
It's hard to think I did that long.
You're quite a trucker. You're a trooper.
I really should have been a truckie. I do look at the truckies and I'm I am only 40 shorts away from being you. I'm
just give me the cap. I'm ready to go.
I've honestly covered some miles.
That's gold. Do you think you'd have existential crises being a truck driver though? Or
definitely.
Yeah, okay. Oh man, I'm just hauling fish. I want to be hauling fresh vegetables.
Yeah. And the hours they do, oh my goodness. A friend's husband does it. It's crazy. Yeah, they work so hard.
They do big shifts.
Big hours.
And a lot of it just by themselves. It's doing it's hard. So it's
so travel would be one thing. I had a class that was particularly hard the year before I finished, and you get to December and think, I've done my mile. I should get a class that's just manageable. Yep. But then you get the same class. And you think, okay, I'll hang in this year. Yep. But then I'm gone. Yep. Yeah.
And then that was it. You're all right.
Pretty much.
I can't go back to another one like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So was that a tough decision, or it was kind of I have to do this?
Oh, it was. Do you know, it's really funny, I think too, if you spoke to people at my old school that I left, it was the running joke that I wasn't coming back probably for 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was obviously sharing that mantra, not realising
so
that.
You were letting people know, this is, I'm running out here.
Yeah, and when I said to people, I'm not coming back, they're like, I'll just see you next year. So I obviously don't follow through on things.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe you do, but it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, a long time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You got to know that about yourself.
Yeah,
Start hearing your warning signs 3 or 4 years out, and then That's gold.
It's been 10 years. I think I should reflect on the things I do.
Cool.
I'm going to make some time for that, clear my schedule.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So then you were like, all right, this is done. Did you have a plan, or you just were like, all right, I'm going to quit and then figure out things?
Yeah, I had a plan to be a writer.
Love that.
Mm.
Yep.
So that didn't happen.
How many words did you put down?
Oh, I've written so many books.
Yeah. Oh, you have written a lot of things.
Yeah.
They'll come. Well, you've started now. In 10 years' time, they'll start coming out.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to them. I'll put it in a notification reminder.
Amy should have published this today.
2033. Third book comes out. Hey, I would put money on it. I'd bet. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
That noggin of yours.
It's a big noggin.
Okay.
So yeah, that was interesting to realise too that writing isn't, you can't make a career out of that straight away, just like everybody else. The Art Nouveau dream or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But so then I started waitressing.
Dream. Yeah, cool. Waitressing, yep, love that.
Yeah.
Down in Byron, you worked at wedding venues and stuff like that?
Yeah, really la-di-da wedding venue, which it's really beautiful. And really interesting.
Yeah.
And the thing I loved about that wedding venue is you could BYO. So instead of picking, off the menu or whatever, this big crate of booze would come in and you could pick the clientele by there's either 4X and the Yellow Glen. You're like, this is going to be a great night.
They're going to have it really loud.
Yeah, or there's the Moe and the Rara. And you're like, could still be good, but unsure. just love watching just weddings where it's just,
Can pick it.
yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
good.
Yeah, that would be fun to be part of that energy, that excitement, and big like departure from, you know, managing kids in like these challenging situations to like just enjoying people's best day of their life.
And I think it was really nice just to feel competent.
Yeah.
You know, people were just kind of, oh, you've already done this, and oh, you pre-thought that, so that's already there, and you're like, yeah, that's just common sense.
Yeah.
But
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd sort of been prepared quite rigorously.
Yeah. A classroom definitely prepares you for 10 million possible options, and you've, in your background mind, scoping constantly, where am I going with this? What's happening? What's their response? So yeah, you are prepared in that sense with forethought, I think.
Yeah. It seems like a teacher's mind and what they have to manage just in a regular day is it just encompasses so many moving parts and so many stakeholders, so many different priorities, so many demands, so many differentiations, all of these things, and you have to just try and keep that boat running smoothly. Yeah. It's like, you know, any job I've done, there's never that many moving parts, you know.
No.
There's like a few key things, and you're like, all right, got to make sure that guy's happy, that person's figured out this thing has to keep going. But like, classroom, it's wild.
So different. Yeah. So, worked at the wedding venue, and then I worked at a bistro.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. Classic hospitality.
Yep. And that was good too.
Yep. And did you start your uni? Because then how did you get into like doing your philosophy course? Or
I did that to just keep busy.
Yeah.
So I probably did that as I quit teaching.
You sort of chose, I'll go into this. Did you go straight away into that, or?
Actually, no. I think I was studying it while I was going to Brisbane.
Oh, well, you started.
Yeah,
before
I started
you
at
finished up.
work. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Now that I think about it.
Do you remember why you decided to study that?
Well, originally I enrolled in a Bachelor of Ancient History. So the first subject I studied was hieroglyphics, and something else. Okay. And I just remembered wanting to deviate from my current job, and I found that stuff interesting.
Yeah. And hieroglyphics, big departure from,
and the lecturer was so cool. He
He sold it.
Yeah, it was 3 hours. You'd sit and listen to him for 3 hours.
You just talk about hieroglyphics.
Yeah, and just sit at home.
History of all that sort of space.
He was purely just, it was like learning a code. It was really cool.
That's cool. Can you read hieroglyphics now?
Of course not. Although I will say this, fun fact. Yeah. There are no vowels.
No vowels?
Yes.
All consonants?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Egypt was Kemet, KMT originally, if you were to translate it into our English.
Kemet, but Kemet, like the E, not that we know it.
Yeah.
Would they still have E's and stuff like that, but they just weren't a vowel? Or
no, they just didn't have that sound.
That is funny. Okay, cool.
But you can kind of make that sound with like Kemet. Sounds like there's a ke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's cool.
And I will say I learnt more about English there than I did at uni, like predicates and all that kind of thing, because you need to figure out how it all, so it's interesting.
I like that.
But I digress.
All right. Well then, so I want to know how you then decided and moved back into teaching. So you went in, you had your 7 years at school, and you slowly kind of became disenfranchised with that, and then had some time to go and explore, and weddings and a bit of fun, a bit of hospitality and studying. How did you come back? How did that happen? I
have a friend who's a deputy at my old school, Kathy, and she was kind enough to say, hey, this other school's looking for a position, and it's closer to Byron. It was on the south coast of Queensland. And so I said that I would maybe give it a go. And I went there, and they didn't have a position. So I said, that's fine, not meant to be.
Yep.
And there was no real drive to go back to teaching other than I had just landed a mortgage. So
yeah. Financial, love that.
Yeah, so it was financial.
Always a very strong reason.
Strong reason.
Yep.
And I think I'd learnt too that if I want to start chasing pursuits that interest me, working till 4 a.m. is not ideal.
Yeah, yep.
And I can do another job with less days work on a day schedule, and that kind of made sense too. So it's just definitely lifestyle choices over any I need to go back there.
Yeah. You didn't have the grand, like, my calling is here.
I am a teacher and I knew it all along.
I just needed to be away from it for a time.
Now I have so many more lessons to give.
I love that. Okay, cool. So then, but then in my conversations with you more recently, like you seem to be enjoying it a lot more than you did back then. What do you think changed more specifically or more generally? What changed? Why is it different now?
My favourite saying that my mum always espouses, and I'm sure it's probably some kind of Confucius thing.
Confucius. Yeah.
So many lessons to give. Before enlightenment, holding water. After enlightenment, holding water.
Yep.
Just you change your viewpoint.
Yep.
Things that you thought you couldn't accept, you start to be able to.
Yep.
Things that... And it's more about yourself. The job was essentially the same. It was just realising... It's going to sound like I've let go of my dream, but just realising that it's not that bad to be doing something every day where you're helping people. And in the background, maybe I can start changing other elements of my own personality. Yeah. That's probably more it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Because what's that? That's like realising that what you're doing is valuable and good and like just being okay with that.
Yeah.
Like it's okay, you're allowed to just do the job, and even if it's tough or hard, you're allowed to just enjoy it or like it.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't have to be so hard, mate. Yeah, because you kind of sounds like you're pretty hard on yourself for like where you were and what you thought you wanted to be doing for those early years.
Yeah, and I think ownership of an idea is really important. I didn't specifically choose teaching. My parents suggested it was a good job, and like it is a good job to do.
Yeah.
But in your developmental stage, for me, I think I needed to, just personality-wise, consider more if I actually wanted to do that.
Yeah.
More than just, again, follow sound advice, because it is sound advice. And
you got that rebel streak in you, Ames.
I know. I don't have it. I don't have it. It's not there.
No. It's like a tingly grumble of a rebel streak.
Every 10 years.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Travel.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that. It's powerful, like self-realization.
Yeah. I think too, advice for people coming into teaching, there's elements to you where you'll be just a number. Get your reports in, do them this way, turn up at this time, and things like that. And just accept that and take that pressure off yourself if there's like, it can be quite hectic having to have your lesson plans and your unit plans done, and then a new initiative comes through with, at the moment I'm doing a literacy thing where we're trying to work through literacy and upskill people and students and all that stuff, and it takes away from what you would consider your core business. So don't feel like you have to delve too far deeply into that if that's not exactly your space. Just be willing to say no. Like, I think
cool.
as a upcoming teacher, I would say be confident to say no, or can I have mentorship in that?
If you don't necessarily know how to do something, or
know how to do anything, or you think your workload is too cumbersome, anything like that, just trust me, within the first 4 weeks you'll know if you're too overworked or and just ask for that mentorship and put it back on admin or your team leader, because they will completely understand what you're going through and help you.
That's probably a big thing, isn't it? Because someone who's coming into the teaching profession, especially if they're quite young, you've got some idea of what you can handle, because you've done uni and that kind of thing, and you can get through that process. But as you go into the world, there's less of those, like, that structure of, like, you know, your 4 subjects and your 10 assignments for the semester or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like way more fluid than that. And then somebody might tell you need to do this, somebody might tell you need to do this, and it just can stack up really quickly. So, like, how would you know if you're in that space when to say no? Because it's a tough thing to do, isn't it?
Honestly, start saying no from the start.
Just start saying no.
Just say no.
And just like
say,
slowly
I'm finding
building.
my ground.
Oh, that's a good, yeah, I like that.
You
like that a
are
lot.
finding your feet.
Yeah,
And it's so easy to be like, oh, the art exhibition's on. We need someone to help curate all the sports carnivals on.
Yep.
Like, you are heading for burnout. You have that year to figure out how your room runs.
Yeah,
And really, you shouldn't be offered too much stuff like that.
Yeah.
I get doing one thing throughout the year or a term, but I would really, just find your space.
I think that's really powerful.
I think too often you think you've got to please people, and that's not the case.
And kind of prove your worth or these kind of things that you think, especially when you're starting, you're pretty gung-ho and you're like, oh yeah, I can do it, and you know, I got a distinction in my last assessment, you know.
It's like, can you distinguish between burnout and, you know, like, it's interesting. And I don't know, that's just where I sit with that. I've seen too many beginning teachers next to me burning out, health going down, you know, and as much as I can covering duties or things to help them, but they have just said yes to too much.
Like not being able to practice boundary setting and these kind of things that leads you to those places. And
it's interesting too, talking to a friend who's a male teacher, and he gets asked to do different types of jobs, to say, you know, stuff related with maintenance. They go to a small school and things like that, and he stays back at school doing this, and he's getting his burnout in a completely different way.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's funny, isn't it?
It's interesting.
And even who I spoke to earlier, Ben, he was saying a big thing for him in his early days was because he sort of had that sort of, you know, wanting to please people inside him, and so he would do that consistently, and that led him towards that space as well. And he's in going back after, you know, being a principal and that kind of thing, learning how to set his boundaries now, you know, like, and he said that would be a big thing as well.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too. I've been given a task, say 2 weeks ago, and then I was away for a few days this week, and the task has completely done a 360. So be very conscious that it's really fluid, and all that extra hour, like 3 or 4 hours that you think you should do after work, it can change in an instant, and that is deflating. And then you have to pick up and keep teaching the next day, which is your consistent. My advice is just learn your consistent first, and then dapple with the other.
Then you can start to add on. Once you're feeling pretty solid in what you're doing and making sure you're doing, like you said, your core business, your core why you're there teaching. You know, that's why you're there.
Learn how to teach first.
Spend that time.
And if there's something you enjoy, like drama or music, and you want to tap into that, do that, but you have a passion there and it underlies.
Gives you a bit of energy
don't let someone pull you into something that you're like, I have no love for that. I guarantee out of the 50 other people on staff, someone else might. You don't have to fill that box.
You don't have to be that pleaser. Your natural abilities will show through, and especially if you're utilizing them in the ways that give you the most. Because if you're doing something and it's given back to you as you're giving into it, that's a sustainable way to go into the career, isn't it? You know, you're like, cool, like for myself, I might enjoy maybe a couple guitar lessons or something like that, maybe some sport on the side, but I probably won't go do, I don't know, the debating club maybe. That I might be a bit out, or maybe I would like that. I don't know. But
I know, I know, and you've got to try.
I guess you've got to try too, don't you?
Yeah, so it is a really delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. But there's so many opportunities too, so it's...
That's true.
Yeah,
that's cool. I really like that.
Yeah. So basically just keep in your conscience what you are enjoying and what you're not. And that's probably what I didn't do at the start. You know, even for you to point out...
shaded with
Yeah, and crying at that one workplace is not the only time I've cried at other workplaces, you know, and for you to say that's not great, I'm like, yeah, it isn't actually. Probably should have. Yeah. So.
No, I guess.
Yeah. No, but it's funny how you'll just keep going.
Yeah.
When really maybe you don't.
Yeah. So there's, listen, what are the different indicators for yourself when you're in those environments that's telling you something needs to change, or I need to and I guess that's each person's responsibility to understand themselves and what they can handle and what they can't, but really listening and, understanding this is not feeling good to me.
Yeah.
If it's like that for a long time, that's going to cause you challenges.
Exactly. And there is, I think, something that maybe you won't realize until you get into a room fully for the whole year. And even I haven't done a full year of teaching full-time load, so I can't fully speak on this. But I think the background work you do with relationships with parents, relationships with students, there might be situations where you need to talk with so many doctors, people from Department of Child Services. There's this whole other community that you've got to keep afloat in order for your children just to have access to life, just in general. So there's a lot to do. And on top of, if you are planning well, that is a lot of work. If you plan well, you could not and get away with it.
Sure.
But if you do plan well, it makes your day easier, and that takes time. It
takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of pressure off in those places because you're aware of what's going on. But it does take investment and time.
It does. Yeah. So,
be prepared for that. Yeah. That's cool, Amy. Well, I think that's pretty much the main things that I wanted to kind of cover. Is I did have one extra question.
Yeah.
And it was around, because you did a philosophy degree. Who the hell does a philosophy degree? And then you came back into teaching. Is there anything that kind of stood out from that degree that you've either brought into your life or brought into your teaching? Is there anything that kind of came with you?
There was a subject called happiness, goodness, and justice, I think it was called. How to live the good life, which is all kind of, Aristotle and all the ones that you hear or are quoted all the time. And I think philosophy just makes you just stop and think. Instead of reacting constantly, instead of that reaction space, which is also tiring because you're in a room with reactionary little bubbles.
That's what they're
someone
doing.
Steals their pen and it's World War, I don't know, coming on. It's all really reactionary, so you have to really step back and not be like that. And I think to learn that in your own life's really important. Just self-reflection is really important. Philosophy, so hard to define in one space.
Especially practical ones. I think that's pretty cool though. That's that awareness that the classroom situation can be really reactionary, and to develop that skill within yourself, and even maybe in your own internal world, not necessarily reacting to what comes up inside you. And if you can sit with those things, then perhaps you can sit with a group of children and
I like that,
and not be so in the turmoil.
Be the watcher more than the what is it, that empty vessels sound the loudest? Is that an old saying? Empty,
Cool.
Whereas if you have something to say, just don't say anything.
But
not where am I going with this?
The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Not that one.
I think from philosophy, my favourite philosophy subject was philosophy of art.
Okay.
And the first 10 minutes, he would just put one picture up and you would just sit in silence and look at it. And then he would start to discuss about it. All these philosophers' concepts about art, and he would pick one per session. And I really liked how he ran that because it showed something that I really like. It's maxim is like a law in philosophy, and so people have these laws about people will do it this way or X, Y, Z, and I really enjoyed having to stop and think about that, because the more you think about people and laws, the more you know that people are unpredictable, and yet there's patterns to people, or there's all these elements that it just makes you realise you're just a tiny grain of sand on a big beach, and you just don't need to worry. It's okay. You're insignificant, so don't worry.
Yeah, and you're probably doing fine.
It's if no one steps on you, you're doing well. Honestly, it just kind of makes you realise you're insignificant and don't stress so much. Yeah. You're all good.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a big place, isn't it?
It's a big place. All your fears and worries just...
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so okay.
I like that. It is, the burnout, it's okay. And you can stop. You can have a break. You can rest. You can recuperate. You can try something different. But it's like, keep yourself in a good space. Yeah,
and I think too, schools are really starting to do that. They have wellness frameworks now. We have a wellness coach at our school. Oh, wow. They really are trying to hamper that down. So if you ever feel worried, just play the wellness card. Yeah. That's my advice.
It's a legitimate card.
It's a legitimate card now.
Oh, I like it.
Cheers.
Thank you, Amy. Cheers.
Thank you.